Hi, and welcome to episode 1, Time is Not on Your Side on the Efficient Musician channel. I'm John Witt, the founder of Efficient Musician. I was going to discuss mindset this week, but thought it was important to discuss time instead. Specifically, my goal today is to discuss why time should not be the primary method of evaluating your practice and offer significantly better solution. I'll start with a few basic questions involving time and of all things, mince pie, which is a Christmas favorite for many, especially in Europe. Personally, I'm not a fan at all. Suppose you ask these questions and receive the following responses. How long does it take to bake a mince pie at 375 degrees? 30 minutes. How did the new mince pie production line perform? It operated for 8 hours. How is the new typist who smells like mince pie because she lives next door to the factory? Aside from the odor, she's great and can type for a minute. Only the first answer about the time required to bake a pie is useful information. Nearly all musicians would say the responses to questions 2 and 3 are useless. Why? Because productivity was completely ignored in both scenarios, and the time metric alone is meaningless. Anyone can type for a minute. Musicians would likely agree that better responses to questions 2 and 3 would be the new mince pie production line produces 345,600 pies in 8 hours, which is the actual peak production of the world's largest mince pie factory in the UK, ahead of Christmas. Or the new typist averages 150 to 160 words per minute with over 98% accuracy, which is actually the Guinness World Record. In most cases, what was accomplished in that period of time is equally, if not more important than time itself. Despite this, many musicians continue to evaluate their practice solely on the basis of time without regard to productivity. Achieving a predetermined daily practice time, such as an hour, somehow became the standard, which as we just discussed, simply doesn't make sense given the prior answers to questions 2 and 3. Lastly, the focus on time may come at the expense of concentrating on the practice task on hand, since the goal is simply to practice 1 hour. As a result, many will focus on the clock and mindlessly go practice their assignments until the timer expires. As musicians, how did we get to this point if practice time on a standalone basis is deeply flawed as a metric? I believe there are several reasons. One, it's very easy to track. You set a digital timer and off you go. It's currently very time consuming to create and track progress against multiple practice goals simultaneously. Two, it's very easy to understand. There's no way to quantify practice productivity unlike the output from a manufacturing production line or typist words per minute or accuracy. Three, it's very easy to compare against others. I practice for 2 hours a day, therefore I will be a better musician than someone who practices 1 hour a day, which is not necessarily true. Lastly, I speculate the well-publicized 10,000 hour rule, coined by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers, is a major contributor to the reliance on time. The rule states that a person must practice 10,000 hours in order to master or become world-class at any activity, regardless of mental, physical, or both in the case of music. In support of his theory, Gladwell incorrectly cited a research study of violinists at the Berlin Academy of Music that was conducted by Anders Ericsson in 1993. There were a number of flaws in Gladwell's interpretation, according to Ericsson. One, 10,000 hours was the average amount of practice, not the minimum for the top violinists in the academy at age 20. Gladwell could have also used average practice of 7,400 at age 18, but 10,000 sounds much better. The second flaw is the top group of violinists at the academy completed 10,000 hours of practice were nowhere near masters yet. Their practice was comparable to those at age 20 that later went on to master the violin, as evidenced by their participation in the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra. The third flaw is that winners of international piano competitions are typically around 30 years old, implying 20,000 to 25,000 hours of practice. The fourth flaw was that Gladwell did not distinguish between the types of practice required to master an instrument. Can someone play the same 4 songs for 10,000 hours and become a master musician? No, of course not. The top violinists in Gladwell's study engaged in 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, which I also refer to as effective practice, on average by the age of 20. The fifth flaw is that there are many factors besides time that contributed to the success of the violinists at the Berlin Academy of Music, such as the financial means, support of parents, and an excellent teacher or teachers. In short, there's nothing special about 10,000 hours, and I recommend you focus on the quality of your daily practice rather than 10,000 hours. So, if tracking time is flawed, what is the best alternative? Well, the best thing to do is create smart practice goals, both daily, intermediate, and long term. Your productivity is then the achievement of your goals, and time is the means of achieving them. I'll discuss goal setting in depth later on. Oh, wait a second. I thought you said tracking time is a bad idea. Tracking time alone is useless unless accompanied by smart goals. Time guides you to establish reasonable goals. I'll end today's episode with answers to last week's question. Is perfect or absolute pitch innate, meaning something you were born with, or is it something that can be learned? The good news is researchers determined perfect pitch is learned, not innate, and the odds of obtaining perfect pitch increase if you speak a tonal language. A tonal language is one in which words can differ based on tone, such as Chinese, Vietnamese, and Thai, among others. The bad news is the human brain's ability to learn perfect pitch dissipates around age 6. Clearly too late for me. Next week, I will actually address the importance of mindset. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and feel free to post comments below. I'll see you next week.